2020 is just around the corner, which means another decade will soon come to an end. And no, we don't have flying cars or teleportation just yet, but there was still plenty of groundbreaking gadgets over the past 10 years. Here are just a few bits of tech that made an impact in our lives. When the Apple iPad was first introduced, many people mocked it and said it is just a big iPhone. It turns out that's actually a good thing. It was a large touchscreen computer that you can bring anywhere. Companies like Samsung and Amazon started making tablets too, sparking a whole new computing trend. At first, tablets were just for watching videos and playing games, but later models like Microsoft's Surface became more like PC replacements, leading the two-in-one laptop trend. Guess a big iPhone wasn't such a bad idea after all. If the smartphone killed the point-and-shoot camera, Instagram put the nail in its coffin. It was one of the first apps to make uploading and sharing photos from your phone as easy as pressing a button. Facebook must have realized Instagram's social potential early on as it bought it in 2012 for $1 billion. The investment was a smart one. Instagram now has over 1 billion users, 3 times more than Twitter. In the year since launch, Instagram has blossomed into a social network of its own, with influencers and celebrities using it as their platform of choice. Even in 2019, it shows no sign of slowing down. Many of you might not know that Siri actually arrived years before Alexa and Google Assistant. It made its debut in 2010 as an app for iOS, but was bought by Apple a couple of months later. Then in 2011, Siri was integrated into the operating system itself, making its official debut as an iOS feature with the iPhone 4S. Years later, Amazon and Google came out with their own voice assistants, improving them with artificial intelligence and machine learning. Apple didn't really embrace either technology until much later, which turned out to be a mistake, as Siri's smarts haven't advanced nearly as much. Still, there's no doubt that Siri was the one that started it all. Snapchat burst onto the scene in 2011 and helped propel the idea of ephemeral content to the mainstream. At first, the idea of sharing photos that would vanish in 24 hours seemed strange, but it actually proved to be popular. Since the photos or videos wouldn't last forever, people felt free to be themselves and less hung up about appearances. This phenomenon soon drew interest from rivals like Instagram and Facebook, and they borrowed Snapchat's idea and integrated its features into their own apps too. This ultimately led to Instagram Stories becoming more popular than Snapchat itself, but there's no question that Snapchat did it first. Consumer VR had a coming of age in this decade, largely thanks to the arrival of the Oculus Rift. It raised well over $2 million from Kickstarter in 2013 and was then bought by Facebook in 2014 for $2 billion. One important turning point was a partnership with Samsung to develop the phone-based Gear VR headset, as it gave consumers a taste of VR at a relatively affordable price. The first Rift finally came to market in 2016 and was soon followed by competition from HTC, Sony, and even Google. Oculus has since developed the Go and the Quest, which are standalone VR headsets that don't require a PC or phone. Some of the early VR fever has died down, but with better content and headsets arriving all the time, consumer VR isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Prior to 2013, mirrorless cameras weren't really taken seriously by professionals. They used smaller sensors, didn't have the lens selection that DSLRs had, and some didn't even have an eye-level viewfinder. But Sony's A7 and A7R changed all that. These were full-frame mirrorless cameras with interchangeable lenses and were priced competitively at under $2,500. They turned out to be incredibly popular among professionals and enthusiasts alike, and the full-frame mirrorless trend would prove to be quite the competitor against DSLRs. Sony's third mirrorless, the 2014 A7S, proved to be a video powerhouse and shook up the film industry with fantastic image quality at a fraction of the price of a cinema camera. Suddenly, Canon and Nikon were no longer the only two camera companies that mattered. Sony was up there too. Back before the days of ubiquitous smart TVs, watching YouTube or Netflix on your television meant spending close to $100 on something like a Roku or Apple TV. But with Google's $35 Chromecast, anyone could turn their dumb TV into a smart one simply by plugging it into their HDMI port. From there, they could cast popular streaming services, as well as their web browser, straight from their phone or laptop to the TV. It helped bridge the gap for those who wanted to watch the latest Netflix movie on the big screen, but didn't want to invest in a whole new entertainment system. The Apple Watch was one of the first smartwatches that put fashion at the forefront. Sure, alright, Google came out with Android Wear a year prior, but the first batch were a little on the chunky and masculine side and didn't quite gain the mass appeal that the Apple Watch did. And since then, Apple has beefed up its wearables even further with health-oriented features like a heart rate monitor, fall detection, and an FDA-cleared, though not approved, ECG, which certainly makes it more useful than a regular old wristwatch. At first, a standalone device that you shouted random commands at seems a little silly, but the Amazon Echo turned out to be surprisingly popular. And a big reason for that was Alexa. Being able to speak commands at an omnipresent assistant was surprisingly useful, especially at home when you might not always have your phone on you. The Echo also proved to be something of a Trojan horse for Amazon's smart home ambitions, as you can also use it to power the lights, turn on the TV, or adjust the thermostat. The concept actually proved so compelling that rivals like Google attempted to compete with Google Home and Google Assistant. The Echo has also arguably helped to give rise to our current state of persistent surveillance, with Amazon recording much of what the smart speakers heard. These are issues I expect we will still be arguing about at the end of the next decade. Google's Pixel and Pixel XL were the first Google smartphones that the company really took ownership over, even more so than it had on any of the Nexus devices. The Pixels had a sleek design, a 5-inch AMOLED display, and a 12.3 megapixel camera that was ranked the best smartphone camera of the time on DxOMark Mobile. The Pixel also debuted many of the advances in mobile photography, like HDR, night sight, and high-res zoom, that are now standard on almost every high-end phone camera. Combined with unlimited cloud storage on Google Photos, and the Pixel was finally a Google-designed phone that was on par with other Android flagships on the market. Since the rise of the Xbox, Nintendo has been something of an outcast in the gaming world, always left at the kids' table while Sony and Microsoft mingled with the grown-ups. Nintendo's focused on handhelds, with the wildly successful DS series and the misstep of the Wii U had people doubting its future in the age of mobile gaming. We wondered, could Nintendo compete in a world where everyone already has a gaming device in their pocket? Well, that changed in 2017 when the Switch became the hottest gaming gadget of the year and arguably the decade. Its versatile design meant you could play it anywhere, either docked and connected to your TV or as a handheld, or slide out the controllers and hand one to a friend for head-to-head local play. The Switch has since sold over 38 million units, with publishers clamoring to port their games over to the platform. Sure, alright, it doesn't have all the AAA titles that Sony and Microsoft have, but with those sale numbers and the growing popularity of the new Switch Lite, Nintendo has nothing to worry about. Tesla gained popularity in its early days with expensive sports cars like the Model S, but it was the $35,000 Model 3 that was truly groundbreaking. It was the culmination of a nearly 12-year plan to bring an affordable yet attractive EV to market. The Model 3 arguably kicked off the trend of EVs with prices that won't break the bank, such as the Hyundai Kona Electric or the Kia Niro EV. That, combined with its good looks, minimum range of 220 miles, and the fact that it handles corners like a dream, makes it one of the more important EVs of the decade. Once they manage to actually ship all of those $35,000 models, that is. Of course, this is not a comprehensive list by any means. There is no way we could fit every single accomplishment into such a short internet video, but it does go to show how far we've come this decade. In the next decade, we're expecting those flying cars to finally get here. As always, be sure to hit subscribe and head to our website, Engadget.com. We are about to head to CES in Las Vegas to see the best new tech of the start of the next decade. And we'll hope to be with you in another 10 years to look back at another decade of tech.